everybody, to another episode of the Soder Report. My name is Kyle Soder. I'm the host here on the Soder Report. Today we're going to be doing a San Francisco Giants evaluation. How has their season gone? We're going to get into it next. All right, everybody, welcome in to the Soder Report. Before we begin, I have to give a shout out to our sponsor at Elite Cacao Supplements. Head on over to www.elitecacao.com to get your supplements to boost your mood, improve your cognitive function, improve your memory retention, improve all of it, and each purchase helps a Ghanaian farmer put food on the table, so you can help out their economy there as well. So go ahead and head over to Elite Cacao Supplements, check them out, and support yourself and support a farmer today. So, like I said, we are now 38 games into the 2025 season. I've been on record now saying that after 40 games, it's a big enough sample to start to evaluate where you're at as a team, where your weaknesses are, who's playing great this year, who's not playing great this year. There's still time, of course, for people to turn it around. That goes for everyone, not just role players, but everyday players as well. There's time for people to turn it around, but it's a big enough sample that we can start getting into an actual evaluation at this point. And the San Francisco Giants have been one of the more surprising teams in Major League Baseball this season. They have 24 wins to 14 losses. They're only one game back in the NL West, right behind the Dodgers, tied with the Padres for third in their division. I'm pretty sure that if they were in the American League, they would be tied for the best record in the American League. So I think it's time to reevaluate the San Francisco Giants. I've been on record saying that I thought this team was a 77-win team. It definitely looks like they're trending above that right now. Now, just to cut myself some slack, I said that expecting that the Giants were going to rehab their organization this season. I thought that they would be playing guys like Kyle Harrison, Hayden Birdsong, Luis Matos. I thought they would be playing younger guys in the upper levels of the minor leagues on the Major League roster a little bit more to figure out who they are and figure out if they have a spot on the team heading forward. It doesn't look like they're going to do that. So I feel like this brings up the first fascinating debate. The San Francisco Giants are one game back for the NL West. I don't think anyone expects them to win it as of now, but they are definitely a strong contender for a wild card spot at the end of the season. So, do you do everything in your power to make that wild card spot, or do you go with your original plan before the season to rehab the organization, to figure out who your starting right fielder is next year, who your starting first baseman is next year, who's your starting second baseman, who's your starting DH, who can pitch in your rotation? Do you figure that out with the young guys in your organization, or do you continue to press forward with guys like Lamont Wade Jr., Mike Yastrzemski, Wilmer Flores, Jordan Hicks. Do you continue with those guys to try to make that wild card spot? So there are this is such an interesting debate, because on one hand you could sacrifice the rest of this year to have prolonged success in the future, to build yourself into an actual World Series contender. So I'll give both sides of this argument, and then I will state where I stand at the moment. So, starting off with the argument to continue to rehab the organization. One could say that the San Francisco Giants are not a powerhouse team this year, despite looking like it on the stat sheet, despite looking at it in the win column. We all know that players like Wilmer Flores, Mike Yastrzemski, throw in Lamont Wade Jr., Patrick Bailey, these guys are not superstar players. They're not gonna get the San Francisco Giants to a World Series, and that's the actual goal. The goal isn't to get to make the playoffs. The goal is to win the World Series. And the San Francisco Giants this year are not in a spot to do that. So, in order to get to a spot to do that, you need to figure out what you have in this organization. The easy way to do that would be to pay big-time free agents like Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Kyle Tucker next offseason. But we have an owner who is unwilling to spend that kind of money, so we have to resort to developing within the organization. And you need to play Luis Matos in right field over Mike Yastrzemski, even though Mike Yastrzemski had a good April. You need to put Birdsong and Harrison in the rotation over a guy like Jordan Hicks. You need to start figuring out what you have in these young players so that you can figure out where your holes are and address them in a way that fits in with the extraordinarily tight finances that the San Francisco Giants have, which of course is not very tight at all. The San Francisco Giants could pay whoever they wanted, but they won't. So you have to figure out who in your organization is there, where your holes are, and work to fill those holes next offseason to get to a World Series contender status. So that's what someone would say if they were going along with the rebuild, with the rehab, as Buster Posey said. Another thing is you shouldn't stray from long-term plans because you had success in a small sample size. So, someone who would say, hey, the San Francisco Giants are a good team this year, they should go for it, they should try to make the postseason, they could say, hey, why would you mess around at this point and actively try to throw games so that you miss the playoffs? That doesn't make any sense. If you have a chance to make the playoffs, then you should go for it and try to make the playoffs. And once you're in the playoffs, anything can happen. We saw the third wild card just 2 years ago in the Arizona Diamondbacks make it all the way to the World Series. The San Francisco Giants in 2014 won a World Series even though they were a wild card team. So what are we talking about in terms of, hey, I know we had a good start, throw it out the window and just try to develop and rebuild for next year. That doesn't make any sense if you're winning. So that's what someone who would want to go for the playoffs would say. Now, where do I stand? Up until in the past, I have been firmly on the side of rehab the organization. I looked at the Giants roster. I didn't think it had a chance at a World Series. I didn't think it had a chance at the playoffs, to be completely honest. So I thought that Luis Matos, Hayden Birdsong, Kyle Harrison, Landon Roop, I thought all three of those guys should be in the rotation. I didn't like the Justin Verlander signing. I don't like Jordan Hicks in the rotation. I don't like seeing Yaz in right field. I don't like Lamont Wade Jr. clogging up first base and Wilmer Flores clogging up the DH spot. So that's what I've said in the past, but 38 games into the season, a guy like me who was in that headspace in the past can't deny that this San Francisco Giants team is a good team. They're not. You could expect them to slow down a little bit in the future, but you can't deny that this team has a legitimate shot at making the postseason. And once you are in the postseason, you do have a chance. We have seen that. So I'm in a reevaluation state right now at this point. I really don't know. I think that with the Luis Matos versus Mike Yastrzemski argument, I still lean toward playing Luis Matos, especially right now. Today, Thursday the 8th, this was Luis Matos' third consecutive day off. Of course, the entire team had a day off, but Matos was benched the last two games of the series. And to me, that the whole way the San Francisco Giants have handled Luis Matos ever since he came up in 2023 has been malpractice. I don't think the San Francisco Giants know how to integrate a young prospect into the major leagues. I think of integrating a prospect into the major leagues like building a fire. You're going to go out and you're going to collect the firewood that you like. You're going to make sure it's dry. You're going to make sure it's the size you want. You're going to make sure it's the shape you want. And you're going to set it up the exact way that you want your fire to be. And then you're going to go get the kindling. You're going to make sure your kindling is just right. And then you're going to strike a match, and you're going to protect that match from the wind. And you're going to put it on the kindling, and you're going to gently blow on it until it grows into a big fire. That's how I think calling up a prospect to the major leagues is very similar. You have a prospect. He's made of the stuff you like. He's got the good, dry wood, paws. And he's got all the traits that you like in a prospect. And he's proven himself through the minor leagues. He's gone up through the minors. Pause again. Anyway, but he gets to the point where he gets called up to the major leagues. You need to make sure that you have the kindling in place and you're ready so that once he gives you that spark, you can grow it into a fire. You can grow it into a major league player. How would this look in real life? Well, when Luis Matos hits 2 home runs in 3 games and has multiple hits in 2 of those 3 games and has your only RBIs in one of those games, you have him keep playing every day. That's him showing a spark, and you sitting him down on the bench is taking your Gatorade cooler that you're reserving for walk-off hits and throwing it onto his kindling. What happens over and over again is Luis Matos shows a spark, the kindling starts to take, and the Giants dump a bunch of cold water on it by sending him to Sacramento or sitting him down on the bench. So I have issues with the way that Bob Melvin is handling Luis Matos. I have big issues with it because I think we know what Mike Yastrzemski is, and just because Mike Yastrzemski has played a good month of baseball in April of 2025, that shouldn't block Luis Matos. If Ronald Acuna Jr. is blocking Luis Matos, that's one thing. If Juan Soto is blocking Luis Matos, that's one thing. But if we can't get Luis Matos playing time because Mike Yastrzemski is in right field, Mr. 240 batting average, 26% strikeout rate, 15 to 17 home runs, Mike Yastrzemski is in right field, that's the guy that you absolutely cannot move to the bench in favor of a high-end prospect, high-ceiling prospect. I disagree. I know he's playing well. I know he played well in April, but that can't be the guy to block a high-ceiling prospect. So I think the Giants, I'm still deciding whether or not the Giants should continue rehabbing or go for it. But I still firmly believe that Luis Matos should be playing 3 to 4 times per week, at least. So, another interesting debate, sort of in the same vein, is Jordan Hicks versus Birdsong and Harrison. It doesn't necessarily have to be Jordan Hicks versus those two. It's whether Birdsong and Harrison should be in the starting rotation. Kyle Harrison had sort of a rough spring. He didn't have the velocity, he didn't have the location, his numbers were awful. It was bad, to be frank, in spring training. At the beginning of spring training, he had some sort of sickness and he lost 15 pounds. And it seems like in the past 1 or 2 weeks, Kyle Harrison has regained his form as what he was as a top prospect. We saw him in the game. What day was that? On Wednesday? Tuesday? On Tuesday. He came in and he was throwing 96, 97 with that fastball. I think he only threw fastballs that entire inning. So he looks different this year. Last year he was throwing 92, 93. I think his fastball was averaging 92. Add 4 miles an hour onto that, and that's a huge difference in the major leagues. And then Hayden Birdsong has been electric pretty much since the start of 2024. He started in Double-A. He pitched, I think, 2 games in Triple-A, and then he was up in the big leagues, and he's been up in the big leagues ever since. He had a great spring training, and he's been put in the bullpen, and he's been pitching extremely well out of the bullpen. So it leads to the debate whether these two should still be in the bullpen. Now, my position on this is a little bit different. I think a lot of people believe Hayden Birdsong should be in the rotation, and most people are fine with Kyle Harrison being in the bullpen. I'm a little bit different in this debate, where I still see the upside of Jordan Hicks, although his leash is getting shorter as the days go by. He has high upside as a starter. He has worked for the past year and a half to build up that endurance to be a starter. His stuff looks great when he's pitching. He's got a lively fastball. He's got great off-speed pitches. The movement is there. The results just haven't been there yet. So I'm still holding out hope for Jordan Hicks as a starter, but if you don't see it by beginning of June, then I think he's got to go to the bullpen, and once he goes to the bullpen, he can't come out. You can't give this experiment try number 3 next year. So he has to have a long enough leash to where you know for sure if he can be a starter or not. With Birdsong and Harrison, I think they're both worthy of pitching in the major leagues. I think they're both major league ready pitchers. I see that the rotation is full right now. I see that you have a lot of pitchers who are producing in that starting rotation. So I understand why they would be put in the bullpen, but I don't like it in the sense that you're not going to be able to keep them stretched out. I know the Giants say that they will, that they'll be just fine. They're going to be stretched out. I don't really know exactly what they're doing. My guess is that they're having them throw an extended bullpen session sometime during the week, maybe even a simulated game. And I just don't think that is... How do I want to say this? I think that being in a real game, starting a real game in the major leagues is much different from pitching in a simulation. I think it's much different than throwing 90 pitches in a simulated game. Throwing 90 pitches on a major league mound against major league batters when you're going up against Kyle Tucker or Carlos Correa or whoever you want to imagine, that's going to be different than pitching in a simulated game. So I don't like that they think they can put these guys in the bullpen where they're going to pitch 30 pitches a week. They're gonna go out. They're gonna have 1 to 2 outings a week where they throw about 30 pitches per outing, and they think they can keep them stretched out that way. I just have a hard time believing that. I don't know that that's gonna work. Maybe it does, but I think that with Birdsong and Harrison, if it were my decision, I would have either put them as a starter in the major league rotation or as a starter in the AAA rotation. The bullpen would not have happened if it were up to me, because I want to keep them stretched out in an actual game rather than in a simulated game. So that's my opinion on the Birdsong and Harrison
stuff.
All right. I wanted to take a quick look at some of the projection systems, what they're saying about the San Francisco Giants. The Giants are off to a good start. What do projection systems say? So, we're going to start with Fangraphs. Scroll down to the NL West. Hopefully you can see that there. Fangraphs has the Dodgers projected to finish first in the division with 98 wins. In second, it actually has the Giants projected to finish second with 87.4 wins to 74.6 losses. Fangraphs has the Giants at a 7.2% chance to win the division, 6.7% chance to clinch a bye, 49% chance to clinch a wild card, and 56.2% chance to make the playoffs. And of course, 2.6% chance to win a World Series. A man can dream. A man can absolutely dream. Hopefully, this is one of the, what would that even be? A little less than 48, one of 48 chance, I think. I don't know. It's hard to do math and podcast at the same time. But it's got the Padres coming in third, just 0.4 wins behind the Giants as the projection. So the Giants are projected 87.4 wins, Padres projected 87 wins. Then the Diamondbacks in fourth at 86.4 wins. So those three teams just separated by 1 win in the projection. And then the Rockies, they're projected to win 54 games and lose 108. They have a 0.0% chance of making the playoffs, which I think is kind of harsh. I don't know, though. This next projection system is called FG WAR. So Fangraphs had their projection. We're going to see what FG WAR thinks of the San Francisco Giants' hot start. Let's scroll down. So they have the Dodgers finishing in first with 98.8 wins. Padres finishing in second. So this is different from Fangraphs. Fangraphs had the Giants finishing in second. This one has the Giants finishing in third. They have the Padres finishing with 87.9 wins. So 0.9 wins more than Fangraphs has them. And it has the Giants only winning 86.3. So that's 0.9. No, it's 1.1 less than Fangraphs had them winning. It has the Giants at a 49.1% chance to make the playoffs, 1.5% chance to win the World Series. It does have the Diamondbacks coming in fourth with 85.1 wins. So these teams are more spread out than in the Fangraphs projection system. The poor Rockies, man. 50.9 wins, 111.1 losses. That is rough. Let's go to ATC's projection system. This one also has the Giants finishing in third, this time with 86.6 wins, so slightly more wins. They gave them 0.3 more wins than the other one. and it gives them a 52.1% chance of making the playoffs. So I believe that is right up there with Fangraphs' probability of making the playoffs. Slightly less. Fangraphs was 56. This one's 52. Now let's go with the BatX's projection system. They've got the Dodgers finishing in first, Padres finishing in second with... Hold on. No. Why is it organized like this? So, for some reason... Okay. It's being sorted by probability to make the playoffs. And in that regard, the Giants must be like 1/100th of a percentage less likely to make the playoffs than the Padres, according to the BatX. But the BatX currently has the Giants projected to win more games than the San Diego Padres. It has the Giants projected to win 87.7 games and the Padres to win 87.5 games. So that's a little bit weird. It has the Giants and Padres neck and neck at 61.7% chance to make the playoffs. It has the Giants at a 3.3% chance to win the World Series. So the BatX is actually the highest projection system in terms of... They're actually the highest on the Giants. They gave them the most projected wins. They gave them the best probability to make the playoffs, and they gave them the best probability to win the World Series. So that's the one the fans are going to like. The fans aren't going to like FG WAR. There are some other projection modes. I think that we've covered this at this point, though. The Giants, according to projections, are going to win 86 to 88 games. They have about a 1.5 to 3.5% chance of winning the World Series. And in terms of making the playoffs, anywhere between 45 to 65% chance.
Your commitment to going above and beyond?
Stop that. Oh my goodness. You guys are seeing all my stuff. Okay. That's the second time that's happened. Okay. So, I do want to conclude this episode with goodness. Okay. I think we're back. So, I do want to conclude this episode with a re-evaluation of what my expectations are for the San Francisco Giants. So in the past, I'm on record saying that I expect the Giants to win about 77 games, but they would rehab the organization to put themselves in a better position to be a truly dominant team in 2026 and beyond. My expectations for this Giants team have shifted. I think that this team is a good Giants team. I think these guys have good players. I think these players play well together. And I do think that this team will end up being an above 500 team. I don't think, however, that this team is going to be as good in 2026 and 2027 as they would be if they would rehab the organization like they've been saying. If they would put younger players into the everyday lineup. players like Luis Matos, Hayden Birdsong, Kyle Harrison. If those guys don't pan out, then bring up Grant McCrae, Carson Wisenhunt, Carson Seymour. There's lots of players that you could rotate through to try to find tomorrow's superstars, to try to find players that would be better than Mike Yastrzemski, Lamont Wade Jr., Jordan Hicks, Justin Verlander in the long run. So, that being said, I think the San Francisco Giants are probably going to win upwards of 85 games this season. I think they'll probably win more than 85 games. And I think they have a decent shot at making the playoffs. However, once they make the playoffs, I don't expect them to go very far into the postseason. I have my reservations about that pitching rotation. I know we have Logan Webb. Robbie Ray is pitching well right now. But Justin Verlander, Jordan Hicks, and Landon Roop don't look like dominant major league pitchers right now. They don't look like people I would trust in a playoff game. So, even Robbie Ray, to a certain extent, doesn't look... I know the numbers look good, but he... On TV, he doesn't look as dominant as he does on the stat sheet. So, that's where my expectations have shifted. Hopefully, I'm wrong, and we get a weird postseason, like we do a lot of times, to be completely honest. And the Giants go all the way and win the World Series this year. That's just not my expectation for this team. I don't expect them to win the World Series. However, at this point of the season, it would be a big letdown if they missed the playoffs. So, that is all we have on this episode of the Soda Report today. Sorry it's been such a long time since I have recorded an episode. I've been super busy with work, and my spring semester at college just started up, and I'm going to be applying to a supply chain program at my university. So I'm staying busy. I've got a 7-week-old kid here, so it's been hard to get around to doing podcasts, but I'm going to try to do one on the Ducks and the 49ers within the next couple days. I do want to talk about the Ducks' sudden inability to recruit, and I want to talk about some Brock Purdy conversation with the 49ers and give my input on who Brock Purdy is, what the quarterback market is, should the 49ers participate in that, what are some comparable contracts that you could give Purdy. I would like to throw in my 2 cents in that conversation, but that will be for another day. So thank you very much, everyone. This has been the Soda Report. You guys all have a nice day.